Today I want to talk to you about the BigCommerce BigDesign Library. It's a component library that you can use in React to build out admin interfaces that look and feel like the rest of BigCommerce. Now, obviously, as I'm building out BigCommerce apps, this has been really important for me as a backend dev because I don't want to write any CSS and I don't want to do any design. It's also something that I am not very good at. So, but also obviously from an e-commerce manager perspective, when I am browsing around the admin interface, I want it to look and feel consistent. And so building out a BigCommerce app library, and that's kind of my goal for this year. I want this to look and feel like the rest of BigCommerce. So let's just dive in and show you what we've got. So you can find out from the API reference all the different components that BigCommerce have provided that look and feel like the rest of their app. So you might have modal windows, you might have their panels with their kind of the drop shadow and action buttons, or even like things like the drop down, which also again just really nice. You can almost think of it like a bootstrap for BigCommerce. And so this has obviously gone through multiple rounds of iteration, and BigCommerce's own admin, not everything looks and feels exactly like this as gradually the product is being modernized. But the most recent things like the channel manager itself was built with this BigCommerce design library. And so was actually really helpful for me because they published it on GitHub. It was really helpful for me not only to have the API docs, but have a real implementation, see exactly how they've used it themselves, kind of gotten around maybe some of the quirks of it. And so it's great that we know that they're also using it and developing it, so it's something that's going to stick around. In terms of like going into another example, we have here, this is again something they've linked to in their docs, just a couple of examples of like a panel. So we've got a product form here with some input boxes, which are all styled nicely. An example of the drop down, which is a really nice drop down, actually has things like the search. So we can search for drink and it'll filter all the drop down options. So that is good from accessibility point of view. Validation, all of these things are just baked in, so you don't have to worry about it. Similarly, here's another example for product list is their example of a stateful table. So I'll kind of navigate down here so you can see how you might set that up, passing in the column information and data, and you've got your actions in there, like delete. So all pretty cool. What I was looking for was how do I build out, the first page of my automated categories app is I want a list of categories. That can be quite tricky because you then got to look into subcategories and how do you want to show that subcategory tree. But ultimately, I want a list of categories and be able to kind of click into one of them to edit it. Now, the first thing I looked at was how does BigCommerce do this out of the box? They have a table with an ability to kind of use the plus icon and see the full tree, which looks nice. It seems like this was probably before the BigCommerce BigDesign library came out, but you can see kind of the similarities. So then kind of moving over to where I started. I started with a stateful tree. So this is one of the components to provide out of the box. So obviously from my point of view, great, getting up and running really quickly and it looking consistent. And there's a few different options here. So you can see that they've used it as a category tree already in the example. And primarily you can see this being used as a product assignment mechanism. So editing a product and then ticking which categories that it's sat in. And you have some options like disabling the selection. And that's kind of where I started with. I thought, oh, that seems quite nice. I've got my subcategory tree functionality working quite nicely. It's very clean and simple. But found that actually, it is primarily for category selection rather than navigation. So it was quite hard if I wanted to use that as clicking on the fencing category to edit that category. It didn't seem to be really what it was intended for. So that was a little tricky. And similarly, it is just for the tree. If you wanted kind of this in table form, again, not really appropriate. So then I kind of went back to basics to move on with the other area of my app. So you can see here, I just used a really simple table with category and then an action on the right-hand side. Again, basic, just a simple edit action. And you can see I sort of dumbed down the category title to just kind of avoid having to worry about the subcategories initially. But I've come back to it recently. So kind of in a matter of a few weeks, picking this up and iterating on it. I now have a table where I can kind of expand out, which is much kind of more similar to some of their other interface and design components that they have. The chevrons seem to be kind of be kind of what they're using now. If you kind of look back up here, so I've kind of repeated that. I removed the folder indicator. I felt that was kind of not needed, and now I can kind of go into the categories and pick one and go to my next page. And we have our loading spinner, and you see the panel sort of mechanism, the radio buttons, and all from the BigDesign library. So yeah, if you're building out BigCommerce apps for your merchants, whether that be as an agency or an app provider, yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't use the BigDesign library. But I found it really helpful to get up and running really quickly and build out these different interfaces. So yeah, thanks a lot, BigCommerce.